So we're going to start with the east. We've already shared quite a bit about um, the west, and it's difficult, as you know, to get everything out. Like you shared some stuff on the board with your thought processing, breaking things down from your perspective of what we're sharing, so that's really good. But none of us know it all. We're only sharing from the perspective of that which we know. That's it. And we're not telling, I'm just sharing. It's very important that we always reiterate that we don't think that we, our head is so blown up and ballooned that we've lost sight of the heart. And so, because this is still a journey of incremental climbing, we're finding resolve. So I wanted to just, before we start, because we're going to talk about the east now, and we won't get through it on one session at all. Because even as I'm researching to extrapolate out through much of the resource that I've already built up over 5 years, I can pull it all forward now and then condense into files, and so I can start putting things in order that I go like seem random before, but they're actually, now I can put sense to them. But so the completion of circle, more of an egg, but meant to be a circle, is we're seeking center. So this is macro and micro, right? Because we've already talked about going into this. We're just using this as an expression, as a metaphoric picture to describe a compass, right? And so if it's on the board, it's you, right? As or at. We're looking at it, but then it's us. This compass is within us. Every one of us has the ability to circumnavigate. We're time travelers. We're in the parentheses of time. We're all time traveling right now. Just a different perspective what time traveling is. Some people are trying to go back to rewrite the future, but yet in our present, we can do time travel because we're all in time. So we're all time travelers, right? This perspective is, we got to remember that if it's us and what we're journeying back to, we can change this from a different perspective and still say the same thing. And so that's why I put so we're still journeying the circle. And because everything's morphing, and we just don't want to get caught in this dualistic side. And this is where
like
we
a profile view of it.
Yeah, this is a profile of a spiral staircases within you. This is the same as what's going on here. So we have the ability to speak. It's through the progression of incremental journey that allows us to extrapolate out forensically our own forensic work. Forensics is the study, right, of researching. And then the Hebrew, we've already shared that before, as part of really our foundation of what metaology would be the extrapolation of a language. So it's like we've already shared that English would say in forensic, he died from a pointy thing. Greek would say it was a knife, and Hebrew would say 10 inches long, serrated on one side, the handle was this, it weighed that much, and you go right into the minutia of forensics that gives you a broader perspective that allows you to comprehend the completion of the intention. Because the further we go away from this, right, then we're staying down in the limited perspective. And it's okay, it just is. This is where someone may be, that's where they are. But where we and you are going, we're looking for more of a detailed perspective that assists us in our seeking. This is just the process of seeking. And so I didn't want to get so locked into, because everything is macro micro within us. The whole structure of celestials, macro micro, just boom 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 boom, right? Because if you're at a certain point, there still is another point beyond that point. So you become the micro in that point. So there's still a macro, right? So it's all relative to where we are in our ascension. And so this is this. And that yet this is still saying there's duality here because we're not knowing what's on the north. And we know that we've already shared that this is south, east, north, and west. And we've already determined that this is our first step coming in from the hidden. and now we're journeying, right, to find the resolve of what the east is going to be, and it's what we're going to share by going the way of the right. So inculcation again, the right hand path, you can't go back. But one of the things that people say, well, knowing that this would be mother's side and this would be father's side, this is the hidden, right? This is the mysterious, this is the deep. Deep is still revealed in this incremental journey, right? I'm breaking it down into fragments just to say this is the way we need to go. But this is where it gets a little, well, it's an oxymoron. You just said that the south is the south, but as you can tell by this diagram of a spiral, this journey west, at some point, I'm still crossing over into father. But it's only, right, it's because it's only incremental. My comprehension of father is incremental as well in my learning of mother, right? So I'm still having to go the spiral because this would be a progression of time and a cycle of time in the macro, but in the cycle of a year, I'm just drawing, there's a cycle of a year, that's one cycle. But in a life cycle, we have many spirals until we find, right, what the center stand is. This is menorah language. So in our journey, really, of incremental journeying, we're actually shedding light because this is the light side and this is the dark side. It just means hidden or not revealed. But as we do this spiral through the life, after year after year after year of this spiral, we are shedding light on the dark. Because this is still father's side and this is still mother's side. So this is still the mystery. But as we journey, we're shedding light on that side. You're comprehending, right? So we're pulling in heaven. We're the mysterious dark side. We're pulling father in by our journey of intention. And so at some point we realize, wow, we're now, this is all ascension. So my perspective up here, of course, of father is going to be different than it was down here now, because
this is you and this is your higher self. It's like an attraction field.
Absolutely, it's a vortex. You're creating the vortex. It's just we just narrowed it in for the purpose of explaining, to assist people that it's a nasty little cloth. I thought I had a better one somewhere, but. Yeah, so we're just using this as the template to say, this is progressional. There's a cycle of a year, but now we're moving into this spiral so we can lift it up to say, yes, everything speaks, everything is all, but we still have to break it down to the minutiae to say really what's going on. We're just talking about the compass, but make no mistake, it still goes broad, deep, We're talking about the ocean. We just know the drip and the drop of the ocean. Okay? So I just want to connect that we're moving spirally as well as we are going circular. It's all the same. It's all the same language of building. So let's talk about the East. And the East is a word, like all words. And if it's a word, it's really an English word, and it's in the Hebrew, there are characteristics of entities, the letters that are seeking to be filled up. They're looking for resolve in their frequency and their attention because they're living entities. And so they just simply come together in agreement to say, this is what East is. We can't limit ourselves, or we do better by not limiting ourselves to say, East is this, and we've determined it to be, yes, it's a direction, but it's also becoming. This is becoming. And so we're in the process of becoming completed being. Human being. So this is just a measure in degrees, purposely said, because it's the compass that has degrees. And the compass, back in navigation of sea travel, they developed the compass. It's called the compass rose. The word for east means okay. East means arisen as arose. It's the same thing, arose and arisen. It's a play on words, but the compass rose is really talking about, and there's 32 fractals on the compass rose. So on the pinwheel, it's interesting because as we're talking, remember, everything's about center. So we have 32 fractals on the compass rose, and I just find it interesting that it's 32 completed. The next step of completion would be, right? 32 steps, and then at that point, you are what? It's like a 33.
And then 32 is also half of 64 genetic markers in the I Ching. There's 64 elements.
There you go. So, you know, I don't know that, but whatever you can associate to your knowing to connect with this, I'm just sharing information and go like, is it 32 points? It's 32 points. 33, whatever, 33. There is significance to 33. I just find it interesting that we have it broken down. The compass is broken down into segments. And this is an internal journey in time. The time machine is calibrated in a direction. Otherwise, we get lost in time travel and we don't know where to go. And so we're seeking things that we shouldn't, or in a direction that really isn't. It's all necessary. It's all part of the plan, or your personal experience, I should say. But for me, what we're realizing is that there's a direction of intention, and if you follow that path, it produces the intention. You can find it in the parentheses of time without wandering needlessly. So, anyways. So we need to break down this east word to fill it back up. So everything's about emptying it up in the circle. Everything about the south, before we get to the east, journeying from the west to find the north, so it would be called center, is emptying out. But in our emptying out, we are filling back in, right? What are we emptying out? Ego, right? In this path here, if we're going back to the north, this is associated as ego because ego is just vanity being filled up to a measure that we're becoming lofty in thought by not going the direction, the right-hand path. So we're inflating ego with knowledge. And if we recall that the whole purpose of Mother's right-hand path is to empty out, so you'd be called humble. And so if you're moving counter, I'm not saying that those that don't find this, they can still find humility, but if it's not done correctly, if you're seeking head information and haven't pierced your heart, most likely you're not going to be comprehending humility correctly, because this is the intention. Because you're seeking the information for mainly other purposes. Maybe it's control, maybe it's power, maybe it's a fraction. I don't know. But I do know that moving this direction is the emptying out for the purpose of being filled up. It's like, again, an oxymoron. This whole language it points to itself to say, empty to be filled, right? And so I just love the way it points to it, because it's the same language as Father's pointing to Mother, going like, because of you I am, and Mother's at the same breath is saying, because of you I am, and it's because we are. This is at, right? That's what it is right there. You're center, and so we're seeking to find the resolve through the affliction to make sure that we comprehend what center is, and so we're purging ego, or the potential of inflaming through vanity that would be a full-fledged fire of ego. Healthy ego is knowing what humility is, so you can be sealed in meekness. There is a healthy ego, right? But it has to be, it's all encompassing, or taking the construct of circumnavigation to be completed
In its right place.
in its right place. You've now broken free of vanity, and you've moved in the polemic. You've moved in the opposite of really. It's like Solomon, right? At the end, it's all vanity, right? But we can turn the nature of vanity, turn it on its head, and produce, right, a completed heart. So we need to look at the word of let's look at the word origin of the word east. And it means eastward, and it means towards the sunrise. Eastward. And so we have the word origin of the word orientation. It means to arrange something to face the east, to take one's bearings, and east again. And that's from the 1700s. Just all these origin of English words come from orienteering or from a direction. So you're going to see the east always connected to the sunrise, and there's a purpose we're going this, and we're not going to get this done in 45 minutes. We're going to have an A and B session in this for sure. So the origin of the word compass, so we know we're moving, this is talking to about sunrise, to arise, arisen, we know the way of the journey. Now the origin of the word compass means pace or step, to step together, to journey together. That's the word for compass. That's what it means. In English, the origin of compass means that.
To step together, to journey together.
Mm-hmm. Carrie brought a word today because this extrapolates out so much, and you'd have to have the resources in your brain, because sometimes there's one occurrence words that you stumble upon in our forensic works of extraction that, oh, this means that. And so it's almost impossible to have, you start on one simple file, and the next thing you know, you've got 20 files open, and it's like, oh, this leads to that, and it's like, oh, but how do you rein it all in to make a point, right? It's like, that's difficult. But so there's a word that means to encompass and to gird, and it's Olaf Zayin Resh. Bizarre. So we have a language here that's saying to encompass, to gird up, to compass about, to surround. So we have the family of one, of the Olafim, right? Now this is sword and plow, but this is also the nurturing, right? Because as much as that is a plow in the beginning, it's still this sword that reaps, right? It's still a language of sowing and reaping, right? Because that's how you raise and rise to become first and foremost. That's how you raise your head, is to know the law of one through sowing and reaping. That's really how I see Azar.
So the piercing and the nurturing go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Through affliction you find resolve, sowing and reaping. It's just what you want to put in for a word to define sowing and reaping. But if we can connect it to what we're sharing, we're talking about affliction and resolve. In maturity, maturation produces the intention that you become, right? This is the spiral staircase within you. So we're ascending. Okay, so that's the compass. Now it's really interesting because even the word encompass means to circle about and to put in, to make, to put in. That's to encompass. So en means in, and to gird within, or to equip within. That's to encompass. And now that's just the English, but I can tell you that when this is comprehended, what the in and the point of this circle is, you are now called a weapon of warfare. This goes very deep when you start realizing that within you is the ability to become the intention. What is the intention? Well, you're back to be called Elohim. You are now back to the arisen light of the intention before antiquity, because you're called antiquity, because we're going to break this down. And we're going to realize that the word for east renders down to Adam Kadmon. Kadmon means east. And so now we're going back to the antiquity of man. It's a this east is a big topic. There's also another word to be encompassed, and it's sabab, and it's samek. bet. So this samak really in its own word means to be encompassed, but it also means to prop up. It's like this is what's supporting the tree. You're encompassed. This is your support. Your support comes in knowing what surrounds you. This is part of the knowing that what surrounds you is a presence that is directing you. The spirit is surrounding you.
Are we still on compass or are we on east?
We're still on encompassed, but it's still tethered to the east because remember what encompassing means. This is encompassed. So this is the word in Hebrew that means to turn about, to surround on every side, to compass.
Okay.
So this is Hebrew for compass. And if you want it, it's Strong's 5437. But again, remember, compass is only a word in English. We have to define it through frequency because we are frequency beings.
Doubly built, surrounded.
Doubly built. And if we know that we live in the place of duality, that Mother's journey of the South is part of this would be a bed over here, and then this would be a bed over here. Mother is teaching us to build, and bet bara means to build family, because this is the family of one. The measure of the Alephin, right? So Mother is a measure of building, and then Father is a measure of building, because Mother knows that to meet Father, this is also called the meeting place, that you have to meet the measure of intention. But this is completely encompassed now. So this could be called circle. You've made yourself in the circle of time. And it's the encompassing of a cycle. A cycle is 1 year. (360 degrees). So we have the opportunity to have a pattern presented to us that we can build the template, tabnith, of the cycle, and we have the gift of a year to do it. Every year is a cycle, an opportunity. Inculcation says every year.
Each day is a degree.
Right, but macro, micro, right, is a year. It depends upon what you see. You can complete this cycle and build it in a year. If you are reared and you're in the place of maturity, and you have passed Mother's teachings and you become in the age of accountability, you can build this cycle in a year after accountability. If you have the tools and you've purged it. It's actually a celestial law that says 6 months of Mother, 6 months of Father. And you've built it, the intention. Now maintain it. Now there's a maintenance program with this because you're still in time travel. And so you can't, when you exit out, you don't have to come back in to find this template and pattern. That's the problem, that no one showed the consistent or what is sustainable. Most people have gone into unsustainable and they're drawing from what is sustainable. This is why we're upside down in our country, in our nation, in the world, is because unsustainability is directing what is truly sustainable. And they're feeding off of the sustainable, off the impasse narcissism feeds. Because this is all head knowledge. I'm not saying that there aren't those that haven't got a pierced heart, but not to the level of intention to be arisen. This is problematic. So we have the doubly built, to enclose, still language. Now this is interesting because this is part of the 222 quest. 2 paths of 22 letters produce the journey of the 144. Why 222? Because 22 letters of Mother on her side, when we learn to comprehend the frequency of what they're sharing, then we can start comprehending the 22 because they start to morph. Now you're going, oh my goodness, there's a depth to these letters. There's a face value and then there's a hidden value, and so there's 2 journeys of 22, but they're the same letters, but they express themselves with deeper content because Father is in the hidden. But you have to reveal the hidden from first stepping into
The paleo and the Aramaic, or the depth of...
Right. And Aramic, in definition, is called the lofty or the citadel when you look at the definition. So Aramic, by definition, means lofty, or the citadel is all temple language. Because this is the temple of Solomon. Through Yakin, Boaz, the pillars on either side, we find the temple. So again, that's another, again, we're talking we're talking width and breadth and height and depth in this language, but we got to keep it concise because we still want to talk about what this east is. We got to get to the east, then we can start infilling and going like, whoa, let's go here now. Let's take it into a three-dimensional chessboard. Let's play on all the levels now and see what we can extrapolate out. So why 222? Because 222 is called the flame of God. Or, actually it's Oriel. Ariel. And it means a flame. But this is where it starts, but this word is actually from part of 217, which is Aleph Vav Resh, or. And that means a flame. Or light. Okay, or. And that's going now, if they're all connected, so 222 is connected to this word I just gave you, or is 217. And that means, also in this definition, the east, light, or the flame of God, Yariel, Ariel. It also, same spelling, there's some vowel point difference here, so that's Aleph Vav Resh. Go a little quick, I don't mean to, I apologize. This goes to 216 as well. It means light from 215, and we start to see this, they're all connected, and this really means illumination in every sense, including happiness, lightning, bright, clear, day, morning, sun. So you probably already start connecting the morning sun. Jacob wrestled the evening, and then he arisen in the morning sun. And that's the first word, first occurrence of the word. I think it's Strong's 2224. It means Zarak, and it means rose. The compass rose in the morning. Connecting some stuff with sense of the rose, right? But a lot of the 222s are connected to our personal journey when we started out, and so it's, every time I see the 2, I'm like, oh, it's like, wow, it's all coming forward now to fill itself up. So this is the east, and it also means as being the region of light. But again, everything that is an outward is also an inward. If we have right perspective, we're allowed to do this. And so we see it in this word that it's interesting that this word for 216, here's another 222 occurrence. This word or is in Job 12:22, and it's the occurrence in this is the deep darkness into light, and so it bringeth out to light the shadow of death. It's amazing that this language is, because everything about this language is a transmutation of life, what we think is life, and then realizing it's death. Time travel is a death because we're locked into the limitation of the suit. We're already predetermined that it's gonna expire at some point. And so we are in the experience of finding life through death's journey. So we can redefine death, say, oh, really, Sheol is the place that you inquire to ask questions to become the temple of Anat. You are the testimony and the witness. You are the answer to death's question. What is it? Affliction seeks resolve. So you would know that true life is light, and it's behind the veil, and it's perpetuity, everlasting. But we don't know that when we first stepped in, so we're a little threatened by it, and some fear can rise up, and then we're down here in this pit of fear, but fear is really just the root of ego. We shouldn't have fear should be eliminated, and it does. It starts to diminish as we move into this progressional swing. We diminish from fear, realizing, wow, if I can tune my frequency correctly, it doesn't even come near me. You're walking almost, you start to become invisible to the world. Things don't attract themselves to you because we're a frequency that draws like frequency. And so if we comprehend that, we can break free of lesser frequencies. And this is the same language for arising. Through comprehending what the frequency of light is. So this is big, and then this roots down to 2, because we're still on the same word, talking about the East. So the East is connected to the light. This is in Strong's 2:15, and it's the same Aleph Vav, Resh, and it means to be or become light. The measure of one, or the law of the Alephim, pierces so you may rise to become the first. Or what is light, right? It's the essence of a measure that speaks as one, right? But we have the piercing, which is expansion. So we have one light is the expansion of one who has arisen. However you want to say this, it's connected to the frequency of many entities that are saying, this is light. Become this. Become one measure. Pierced in your heart, center. Become pierced. That allows you to rise.
Yeah, that's that whole picture.
Yes, but if you have the ability to see that picture, so we could just say that, like, what is that? And it's only, right? You can put many things right there, but yet that's a great way to say that picture. That's fully arisen. You're now standing as a first, because everything's going back to Adam. The correct of 121, Adam means the first, and we're gonna discuss that. This East is a big topic. This is a really big topic, and I do not know it all. I'll be clear with that. I'm only sharing from my perspective. Terry has a perspective, as you has a perspective, as we all have a perspective and a measure. I'm simply sharing my perspective. I want to make sure that first and foremost, I get excited when I share this stuff because I can see potential. I see potential, and I want to share potential, especially with family, to say, this is me sharing inheritance, that I can show love through what my Father in Spirit is showing me through the progression of Mother, that there's a potential, and it's called inheritance. It's got nothing to do with the world, yet it does. You got to time travel in the world, but rise above and become the potential. Become light. Go back to the former state. And this is the gist of this. Also, to connect this, I don't want to miss this. So 224, because this is connected to light still. It's the same spelling. It morphs a little bit. It's Aleph, Vav, Resh, Yod, Mem, Urim. Urim is part of the breastplate. And so, right, we have now, and of the ephod, we had that on the ephod, the Urim and the Thurim were shoulder stones. They were kept in pockets on the vest, and they say that they were black and white stones, right? Black, the hidden Father, white, but yet they still used a balance system to point to the ephod, to the center of the 12 stones, to say, there's a frequency here. I'm a calibrator of balance between you, and so you're in the center. But now we have the same word. The Urim is, right? It means lights and perfections. The Urim and the Thurim are really of lights and perfections. That's what it means. So perfected light standing as one priest in the center. Black and white, fully found in center. You stand completed. You are the priest. You are the measure. outward manifestation or outward material, but yet it still is an inward. They learned their lesson, however they learned their lesson, but if we can see it for what it really truly is, we know that that vest is inside of us. As is the black stone, as is the white stone. It is in us. Because this is us. This is us. This is Jacob's ladder, so he can prevail as Israel, Sarah, and he can arise into the intention of light. The brilliance, and it means the oracle, the brilliancy of figures of the high priest. So it's an oracle. You're an oracle when you comprehend this. And I think that's a good spot to leave it right now. I think that what we'll do on the next session we add to this, we're going to step into to the first man, because this is all about rising in the east to become the measure of the man again. But what is this Adam Kadmon? Because Kadmon, again, we're going to break it down, means east. But we're going back to a former state, because east also means as antiquity, from the first. We're going back to before there was a breach. We're going back to before even the garden, there's light. Before man came in and stepped into lineal thinking, we were spiral. Spirit. Spirit was pulled out. We had to journey to find spirit, to have the measure take us back, to calibrate us back to the intention, so we would comprehend the spiral again. Western mind says lineal, Eastern is more spiral thinking, or at least more of a circular concept. That's why they believe in reincarnation in the East. Everything is a cycle. So we're going to bring this up, that why Adam? Why the first man? We're going to go back to the first man in the garden again. Before the Adam in the garden, we're going to go back to the measure of light, the east. Shalom?